Well, if you've been interested in medieval literature and aren't sure where to start, look no further than the Lays of Marie de France. No library is complete without them. Now, these are Breton Lays, and a Breton Lay is a brief tale or song that describes knightly adventures. And this little book, with it's very small, this collection of stories comes straight out of the 12th century, and it contains everything alluring about medieval literature. You've got knightly romance and adventure, fairy magic, folklore, the other world, which I've given lectures on this channel before, on enchantment. It has music, romance, and of course, courtly love. The Breton Lays were inspired by Celtic minstrels native to Cornwall, Wales, Brittany, and Ireland. And this was the Celtic population that was present before the Anglo-Saxons came in and who were living there with the Anglo-Saxons for a time. So when the Anglo-Saxons were taken over by William the Conqueror in 1066, it changed the course of English language and literature forever. And it was the Normans, under William the Conqueror, who rediscovered the Celtic stories of native Britain and brought them to life in the stories of King Arthur, with the tales of chivalry and magic. And you can read that in Marie de France and Chrétien de Troyes, and with the German Hartmann von Aue, and later Thomas Malory. And it all began with the Breton Lay. This is really where this began. So in the 1160s, a poet identified as Marie dedicated her 12 lays to Henry II Plantagenet. And that's what we have here. I have an English translation. We won't be reading from the Old French because I'm not familiar with the Old French, but you can find this Penguin edition really easily. We'll read 3 of these lays from de France's lays, and we'll read 1 lay from Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. So we'll be only reading 4, but this will give you an introduction into courtly romance, the Arthurian tradition, Marie de France, and the whole courtly love tradition as well. So Chaucer introduces a Breton lay in his The Canterbury Tales, which was written in the late 14th century. And when it was time for Chaucer's Franklin to tell his story, he chooses a Breton lay and introduces it this way. Now I'm going to read the Middle English to give you a sense of how. This is the Canterbury Tales, really nice small pocket copy I have. But I'll read to you the Middle English to show you how English was changed, because Anglo-Saxon was very Germanic, very different from what we have today. But then with the Norman conquest, we had some more French elements, and so this is the way English would sound in the late 14th century. So this is the beginning of the Franklin's tale, how he introduces his story. These old gentle Bretons and her days, of diverse adventures madden lays, rimed in her first Breton tongue, which lays with her instruments they sung, or else read in him for her plaisance. And one of him have ye in remembrance, which ye shall say in with good will as ye can. This is him about to begin. But listen, he says, these Breton lays were sung with instruments, played on with instruments, so they were songs, or they were read silently for pleasure. I think this is one of the earliest descriptions, actually, of pleasure reading in medieval literature, and there certainly was a lot of it. So each of these lays is concerned with men and women who suffer in romantic love. Sometimes there are these otherworldly elements as well. And as such, these tales often blend courtly love with supernatural elements, such as enchantments or magic deer, as we'll see in one of the lays we'll be reading, and fairy magic. So none of these tales has a straightforward message or moral. They are moralistic in the sense that they're trying to get you to think morally and make decisions about what you're reading yourself. Marie de France does this, Geoffrey Chaucer as well. They ask their readers to participate in the meaning-making process, which so they prompt us to consider many questions. So as we're studying these lays, we'll be meeting and thinking about some of these questions. What does it mean to be loyal in love? What is the role of marriage in the world? And how does romantic love, eros, support or disrupt that role? Because marriage in the medieval period was very different. it didn't often involve romantic love. And so there's this tension we see in many of these stories. What does it mean to be truly generous or truly free, as the Franklin will ask at the end of his story? So these stories resist a very neat moral. In fact, they require us to participate in the meaning-making process, which is what we'll be doing in the lecture and discussion that we have on the live meetings. In fact, let me read you the end of Chaucer's tale, because this is a really good example of how the lays end, and ask you to participate in that process of meaning-making. Here we are. All right, he begins, and this is how it ends, with the Franklin addressing the audience. Lordingers, this question wold I ask nu. Which was the most affray, as think yo? Now telleth me, ere that ye farther winde. I can no more, me tale is at ende. So it's a question of freedom, of generosity. Yes, which one of the characters in this story was most free? Because we see them all being free. And not to spoil the plot, but you'll see what I mean once we read these. So the meetings are held on Verse Community every Monday in November. So we start at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'll give a little presentation. We'll have some conversation. I'll be guiding us through the lays, and this will last for about 90 minutes. And it's just every Monday. And the meetings will consist of part discussion, part presentation. They'll be recorded for members on Versed, and the recordings will be available the following day. Versed members can find the Zoom links in the events calendar on the Versed website. Once you join up, you'll be able to see all of this. And the books we'll be reading, I have a list here. So you should get a hard copy, but if you don't, there's also some free editions online that I've provided in the syllabus. So I use the Penguin translation and the translation by Harvard on the website of the Canterbury Tales. That's also free. So you'll see these in the links on the syllabus, where if you don't want to buy them, you can just read them for free. So I hope you'll join us, because we don't often do medieval literature on Versed, although we did quite a bit this year. But it's just a great way to get into some of the great classics of medieval literature. So I hope you'll join us. I hope to see you there. Check out the link below on how to join up for the course. And until next time, thanks for watching.